my channel might be falling apart, and there's no one to blame except for MJ Comics. So what am I talking about? Well, a couple of weeks ago, he was nice enough to invite me onto a live stream for an interview. But little did I know that I was being set up for a masterclass in manipulation. So to start off with, even though everyone in the comic community knows him as MJ, when I joined the stream, I found out that he was using the screen name James Mack, which is apparently his real name. And so right off the bat, I was completely discombobulated, questioning my whole sense of reality. I mean, who is this person I'm talking to? Is it MJ? Is it James Mack? And if you go back and watch the interview, which I'll link in the description below, you'll find every time I tried to use his name, I kind of meekly said, James Mack, because I was afraid of offending him, and it just totally threw me off. And it was a textbook case of gaslighting where he caused me to question my sense of reality. But then he moved on and started talking to me in that sweet, calm British accent, asking me how I was doing and tell me a little bit about yourself, Wahoo. And it was a classic case of hypnosis 101, where I was just drawn into beginning to reveal my deepest and darkest secrets, because he knows loose lips sink ships. And in particular, there's something about myself that I've held close to the vest. And I kind of hinted about it a few weeks ago, but I had never come out and said this. And I'm going to tell you why it's important when it comes to the future of my channel in just a minute, so hang tight, because it might not seem like a big deal at first. But he got me to reveal my profession, which is a full-time pastor. And I haven't talked about that so far on the channel, because in my experience, when people hear that you're a pastor, all of a sudden these glasses go on and they start making judgments about you, some that are good, some that are bad, depending on their experience with religion. But I've wanted to let my statements be heard for what they were without being tinted by presuppositions that people might have based on my profession. But anyway, because of his hypnosis and gaslighting, I began to talk about this. And as you can probably imagine, I'm interested in ethics. And in fact, one of the reasons why I love comic books is because they raise a lot of interesting moral and philosophical questions. And so something I've been thinking about is doing a video every now and then where I talk about a comic book that I've recently read and an interesting philosophical question that it brought up, and ask the viewers to leave in the comments how they would answer that question. But up to this point, I've been hesitant to do that because, first of all, I don't want to come across just as preachy. And second of all, I don't want to alienate part of my audience that might just want to leave behind all the heavy philosophical questions and just come here to escape life. But MJ, in his manipulate, or should I say James Mack, what do I say? I don't know. Who is he? Who am I? That's an interesting philosophical question. But MJ/James Mack said that even though he doesn't consider himself religious, that type of content wouldn't push him away. And then Brian McClay in the chat said something very similar. And so I got to thinking that might actually be an interesting idea, and certainly would be one that I would find fun to do. And so what I think I'm going to do, and we'll see how it goes. You know, if nobody responds to this video, obviously I'm not going to go forward with it. But if people find that idea interesting, maybe once a month, I'm going to do that. I'm going to talk about a comic that I've read, talk about a philosophical question that it brings up, and then ask you to put what you think about it in the comments. And then when I do a follow-up video, about a month later, I'm going to share what people put in the comments, and then I'll share my own ideas, and then I'll bring up a new comic and a new philosophical question. And as an example, I recently read Amazing Spider-Man number 65, where Spider-Man sees into the future and comes face to face with the inevitability of death. And he realizes that no matter what he does, all of those that he cares about will eventually die, no matter how good they've been, and sometimes do so in very tragic and lonely ways. And the enemy who's showing him this future then begins to describe what Peter is feeling. And she says, "What you understand now with crystal clarity each time you see a fellow human die is the utter lack of impact they had on the world. With a long enough view to the horizon of the cosmos, no single life matters. A foundational element of your worldview is crumbling more with every death to which you bear witness. Everyone dies, everyone is forgotten, every legacy ends, every great work is lost. You came from nothing, you return to nothing. Life is nothing. This is why you fight in defense of ephemeral whispers who are dead the instant they were born, trapped in meaningless lives with inevitable ends whose echoes fade and leave only silence." And Spider-Man is completely broken by this experience. And so by the end of the issue, Doctor Strange comes to Peter and says, "Hey, Peter, we got to get back to battle." And Peter says, "Why? Why do we do it? Any of it?" And he comes to the conclusion, what we are is meaningless. And the question I want to ask each of you is, if death indeed is inevitable, and to add to that, really suffering is also inevitable, do you agree that this life is meaningless? And if not, what do you think gives this life meaning? And you can answer from a religious or a non-religious perspective. And in a few weeks, assuming at least a few of you answer that question, I'm going to share the responses in an upcoming video and then share my own thoughts. Now, if you hate the direction that I'm going in by doing some of these videos, what I would like you to do is go to that interview that I did with MJ Comics and tell them in the comments below that you screwed up Wahoo Comics. And when you open that video, another thing you're going to notice is just my camera was like garbage that day. And I'm really suspicious because on my end, it looked just like this. It looked like I was in 4K. But when you see what MJ ended up loading on his screen, it was just a fuzzy bunch of garbled mess. And at first I thought, oh, well, I'm just a boomer and don't know how to use technology. But the more I think about it, the more I believe he was gaslighting me yet again and probably had some kind of scrambling software, not only to confuse me once I watched the video all over again, but also to make me look like an idiot in front of everyone. I see what you're doing, MJ. You know, everybody says you're the nicest guy, but it's all a front for who you really are. Now, I hope everybody realizes that I'm speaking with some heavy sarcasm here, but just in case it goes over your head, I do want to make clear that MJ is indeed the nicest guy in the comic book community. I am very thankful that he invited me onto his show. The only thing I actually did feel bad about is how poorly my camera performed, and apparently I am just got boomer brain. But I would like to do some more live streams myself and do some interviews. Another thing I'm interested in doing, but I gotta get that camera situation fixed out. If you are an expert in technology, reach out to me on Instagram and let me know what the heck I need to do to get that all straightened out. Well, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please consider doing so now. Of course, comment how you would answer that question. Is life meaningless or not? Why or why not? Give me a like. Thanks for watching.